You're missing out on this good story.
I'll listen later then.
Listen
Hey,
later.
no, we need some cheese with this wine over here.
If everyone will turn on their mics, please.
No, I haven't got
Janine, do you have any batteries?
Batteries.
Is it just red?
No, it won't go green.
Ours is green.
Who doesn't want to be heard today? I'll swap that.
Which,
Nolan doesn't want to be here.
Nolan's got the voice that'll be heard everywhere.
Yeah.
Say it again.
Yeah,
There you go.
Again, Gina.
I think it's still.
break 1-4.
Okay.
Take that one.
Okay, very good.
Breaker,
All
breaker,
right.
1-4.
Welcome everyone to our workshop. We're going to call this to order. We get to listen from Lauren Ryan tell us about the Cache County General Plan.
Welcome to
And
public.
then she will take about 45 minutes, and then we're going to have a salsa showdown, which I'm looking forward to because I like
So is
salsa.
Lauren in charge of the salsa?
Yeah, she's in charge of that. No,
I'm
she's not.
No.
But can
No.
you salsa dance?
Yeah.
I know, what kind of salsa are we talking about here?
Dancing.
So, Lauren, if you'd like to go ahead, then we'll
And
get
I'll
going.
start too. So you all should have a copy of these draft documents on your iPads, but if anyone wants a hard copy, I have hard copies, so just let me know. I know sometimes people prefer to look at hard copies, so
You know, I would like one, please.
Okay. let me,
You got an extra?
oh yeah, I've got.
Unless you need them for something else, I'm fine, but I'd be happy to. I'll do scribbles on it.
Bryson, we haven't seen you for a long time.
Gives me
It's nice
something
to
to read
see
during
you.
an interview.
Yeah, we like it when you come.
Thank you, Lauren. Thank you.
Got one more. Anyone else want a hard copy? Okay.
I'm old school.
Me too.
Thank you.
Hey, even I prefer the hard copy. It's easier to take notes on. Great. So
Signed into is Jess's iPad.
all right, while David's getting that squared away,
But that happened to me earlier this week as well.
It's how Bart set it up.
Yeah, it happened to me too. I've asked him about it. He says it's okay.
So it just means there's nothing, it has nothing.
great.
Sorry.
No, you're all good. You're all good.
So at home,
So the focus of today's workshop is really just an opportunity for the council to ask questions about the draft documents, any outstanding clarification on the process and what these documents do. So I really want this workshop today to just be open dialogue, ask questions, that sort of thing. So feel free to interrupt me at any time throughout the presentation today. So first off, I want to say thank you for your patience in this process. This has been a long time coming through a pandemic, staff changes on multiple ends. We are finally getting here, and I couldn't be more excited about it. So in front of you, you have the draft general plan document and then the regional collaboration plan. We also have two other elements, the urban and rural area assessment and the cost of services model as well. Those last two supplemental documents were not moved forward by the Planning Commission at the public hearing that we held on August 4th. They felt that those were still in draft form, so they weren't comfortable with moving those forward, so they just moved forward the general plan and regional collaboration plan with minor edits. Staff will be taking that urban and rural area assessment and cost of services planning model to the Planning Commission on September 1st, so by the 13th we'll have a full packaged deal ready for you to move forward. So quickly, I'll just go over. So the general plan is the big arching document that addresses our policies, goals, and strategies for growth. And then we have the three supplemental documents alongside of that. The regional collaboration plan, which is how we collaborate with other cities. The urban and rural area assessment, which addresses growth pattern and needs in both urban and rural areas. And then the cost of services planning model, which are the costs associated with growth. So once again, the general plan, just a quick overview on what the general plan is. It's an advisory document that guides the future growth of the county. It does not change or create any regulations or requirements, but recommends new implementation strategies. And so the layout of the draft document, and we'll go through each of these sections individually, and if you guys have questions, we'll address those as we go through them. So the introduction section, so this really just provides an overview of the county, kind of gives the lay of the land, the organization and use of the plan, and the relationship between the general plan and other long-range planning documents. And so I'm going to, throughout this presentation, just going to kind of pop between the document and the slides so we can kind of scroll through this, but introductory text, pretty straightforward, gives the overall planning context for Cache County and where this plan is to be implemented. Goes into a section on the benefits of long-range planning and lays out the chapter documents, and also how do we utilize the plan? So utilizing it both as a decision-making tool and then also as a guiding tool for making policy decisions. So hopefully, you know, upon adopting and wrapping up the general plan process, the county can look to how do we reflect those guiding tools that have been recommended with the general plan into actually policy decisions. And like I said, please feel free to interrupt me at any time if you have any questions or concerns. We go into the relationship of other planning documents. So like I said, those three other elements. And then additionally, these other planning documents have been adopted, like the Moderate Income Housing Plan, Trails and Active Transportation Plan, and other various plans as well. So then when we get into chapter 2, we're looking at the plan direction. So this provides the mission, vision, and goals of the plan, along with the public outreach summary, so all of the public outreach that we did throughout the process. And this is all defined based on those guiding principles: heritage and stewardship, active lifestyles and recreation, economic vitality, regional collaboration, and valley connectivity. So you'll see that theme of those guiding principles throughout the entire plan.
Lauren, where did those guiding principles come from?
So these came from the public outreach effort that we did. We started with kind of the visioning of what the public saw as the future and what of the county and what were their priorities. We started with that kind of visioning exercise and distilled it down to these 5 kind of guiding principles of what did the public value within the county in terms of guiding growth decisions.
That's great. So it didn't come out of a book or something like that, or
Right.
from the university. Not that that's bad, but it came
Right.
from, it's a grassroots.
Yep. These are all totally, Cache County specific. What did the public want to see?
Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome. Great question. And you'll see right there, these principles show commitment to community values and priorities and provide a compass to guide and shape the community into the future. And so when we go through each of these guiding principles, it defines, how will these be achieved? So, if we look at heritage and stewardship, what does that mean? That means the open and rural nature of the county's unincorporated areas is an important component of the community's character that should be preserved. And what can we do to maintain these values and characteristics of these guiding principles? So the plan goes into that. And like I said, this really encompasses kind of the theme throughout the rest of the plan as well. And then defining the plan direction with the public. So this is where you get into how do we get these guiding principles? What's the public outreach efforts that we completed throughout the entire process? We also have all the numbers there of how many responses we got, how many project visits we got. So you can see, quite a few number of people responded throughout the entire process, which is really great to see. And then once again, just moving through all of the public outreach efforts as well. When we get down to chapter 3, we move into the countywide goals and policies of the plan. And so once again, these are outlines the guiding principles of the plan and the goals and policies that specifically addresses those principles. So if we look at the definitions here, so you think of a goal, so the goals are the statements or expressions of community ideals. They're broad directions that establish future conditions toward which policies are focused. And then policies are intended to guide decision-making and give clear indication of intent. It's important to note that policies are guides for decision makers, not decisions themselves. Policies may range in terms of commitment of resources, importance, and expected results. So I think that's really important to keep in mind as you look through this document. So we get to heritage and stewardship, and so these goals, once again, were we took through public comment. That's that online engagement that we did that we had over 1,000 responses to. We gave the public all of these goals and then also these implementation strategies as well, and whether or not they favored these. And this is also something that we workshopped and looked through with the Planning Commission back in, I think that was March or April as well. So once again, this goes through all those guiding principles and then goals related to those. And then the plan gets down to chapter 4, the future land use plan. This is also something that we had community feedback on as well when we did those policies and got feedback on that from the community. We also had the public comment on this future land use plan. And so we can think of the future land use plan. First of all, it just includes the unincorporated county, and it will help guide potential future zones and provides guidance and predictability within those areas. And so the future land use map has all these various categories, which breaks it down to location, example areas within the county, what's the purpose and character of those areas, what are some of the preferred land uses, secondary land uses, and discouraged uses. So I find this to be really valuable for, especially for example, rezone applications. I know that staff, doesn't have a lot of guiding tools to go off of what's an appropriate land use in that area. So this future land use map, I think, will be really valuable in helping guide what's an appropriate land use in this area. And so I think this is going to be a really valuable tool going forward that will then feed into potential, land use ordinance updates as well to reflect what this future land use map says. And then chapter 5, we get into the real meat of the plan, which is the implementation and plan management. So it breaks it down by studies and plans. So what's some potential future efforts that would assist in getting these general plan ideals on the ground. And so there's some examples there of what could the county do moving forward for potential next studies and plans beyond the general plan. And then we get down into the regulatory tools, which once again is an important element of the general plan. Once we wrap up the general plan, we don't want it to be something that just sits on the shelf. We want to utilize this plan. So this is definitely a very critical element, I think, of the general plan on how we move forward beyond this process. And part of the regulatory tools section, we had these graphics shared at the last at the Planning Commission workshop, which we talked about a lot, and we ended up including these. But that TDR cluster development Those are recommendations, and we included these graphics as well, realizing that there was a lot of public support of, I think we realized preserving open space and how do we do that. So utilizing these type of tools in order to do so. And then it kind of goes into various partners, different groups to work with. And then we get into plan management. So this also talks about how often should we be reviewing the general plan? What's the process for amending the general plan? And then we get down into the appendices section. So those are all the moderate income housing plan, resource management plan. Those are things that are required by state code to be included within the general plan. And then down into the glossary of terms. And that really wraps up the document. I will say that one of the really important things I think to think about with this general plan, so this is at 41 pages. Our current general plan is, I think, around 200 pages almost. So just the way that we've condensed and really solidified and made what I think is a pretty readable, usable document, I think that's really valuable to recognize that part of this process was really refining and hopefully creating a plan that's usable, readable, and will be implemented in the future. So I'll pause there and answer any questions or any feedback or anything like that. I know there's a lot there, so.
One of my favorite slides is the one that you passed over so fast that we didn't talk about it, and that's a picture of the county.
With the future land use?
It's like about 5th or 6th or something, but it shows the county, the cities and everything, but then it shows all of the area. There it is. It's 12.
Okay. Oh,
That is really an interesting slide.
this one here?
I think it's the next one, or one back from that. Here,
Where,
keep
the
going.
one that's circled,
Right
that's in
there.
a
Oh,
circle.
here we
Yeah,
go. Okay.
Now that is an interesting slide when you stop and look at the county. I'm assuming that's the county boundaries because it's got the Wellsville there.
Yep.
And all that you really are showing there is where, where the development is existing now. And all that gray area is still county, and yet we know very little about it other than a lot of it's Forest Service. But look at all that land that's south of Avon.
Right. Yeah, and
That land has got a lot of development potential someday if we ever get the Davenport Road together.
right. And so this graphic, and I apologize for scrolling through it fairly quickly, just in essence of time, but this graphic specifically was related to public feedback and who we heard from with that public feedback. And so this was the survey that we completed online and also sent out postcards. And we've heard feedback from some council members on, making sure, who have we heard from, have we heard from, majority of the county. And so we tried to break it down with this graphic of representation. Yeah, exactly. Just so there was an understanding of what that survey, who did we hear from, and this was based on zip coded areas, which, as we know, aren't perfect of defining where exactly that is. So
You're not going to hear anything from chipmunks and elks and all that.
we tried,
That's an unbelievable amount of acreage that is Cache County, but it's really kind of the unknown of Cache County.
Right, and I think you pointed out correctly, a lot of that area is Forest Service. If we look at this map, the county itself is right. It's such a large land massive area, but really the areas of planning focus right now is that kind of, valley area. But when you look at the entire unincorporated Cache County and where this plan, is implementable is the entire county, which is a very large area.
There's actually quite a few summer homes and land that's private in that area that really doesn't show up, and you just didn't hear from them. But,
Right.
It's a huge mass of land that eventually we will deal with in the future.
Right. And I think that's too where this future land use map comes into play as well. So you can see colored on here, a majority of this is going to be the forest and natural resource area, so Forest Service area, and then the mountain rural and conservation area as well. So we do have, the future land use map that guides what do those areas look like outside of the.
Is the light green, is that state land, or is that federal land, or is that private land?
Yeah, so the darkest green color is going to be the forest and natural resource, so that's going to be Forest Service. And then this kind of yellowish color, I would say, throughout is the agriculture and ranching area, which is defined as, so if we go up here to the definition of agriculture and ranching, so example areas, so that really encompasses most of the valley. So that's going to be, agriculture, ranching, rural residential uses at densities of less than 1 unit per 10 acres, conservation easement, and agritourism. So that area really encompasses a majority of our county area. Great questions, though. I think, it's important to emphasize how much area this plan actually covers, and not to forget about some of those areas outside of the main core planning areas, for sure.
Lauren, I really appreciate how well organized this is, and the layout and everything that makes it easy and actually inviting to read.
Right.
I appreciate that. It's hard, I think, to be able, like you said, to boil all this down and then to put it together in such a readable format. And wanted you to know that's appreciated.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. And from a planner's perspective too, it's much less daunting to open up a document like this and say, a 41-page versus almost, 200-page document. I think I'd prefer the latter. So, Right. So, thanks for reminding me, Tim. So, a reminder, Tim's reminding me that, we'll have this PDF copy, of course, so people can print it out and read it, but it is going to ultimately go into an online story map format that has, maps and clickable features, and will be an online, very user-friendly, kind of pretty picture format as well. But for the ease of updates and going through public process, we've got this PDF copy, which will also exist as well for the public to read too. So, great. So I'm going to move on to the regional collaboration plan, if that is okay. So again, this regional collaboration plan was a added supplemental document to the general plan process. And the goal of the regional collaboration plan is to identify agency and community roles, jurisdictions, decision-making authority, and regional service provision. And I think what it really distills down is to develop a regional communication plan and implementation process. So how does the county work with our 19 municipalities throughout the valley? And I find that this document will be extremely valuable, especially in a role like countywide planning, where part of my role is to assist and work with the 19 municipalities. And at this point, not a lot of clear direction on how we collaborate at a county level. And so this document really works to address those questions and issues. So regional collaboration plan, just a 15-page document here. And once again, this is also an element that the Planning Commission had voted to move forward onto county council as well. So we go into the introduction, which again, kind of a layout on how this plan works with the general plan and those other, the cost of services and the urban and rural area assessment. And then we get down to this, we found that these were things that during that, if you remember during that Planning Commission workshop, things that we felt were valuable and how these growth-related issues in working with our municipalities. What are some important issues that we found to be valuable across jurisdictional boundaries? It then goes into the planning process, so what efforts were done in coordination with the general plan. You know, a lot of what was produced in this document was based off of the outreach that we did within the general plan process. We go into some background detail. And these are, the regional collaboration plan really emphasizes those cross-jurisdictional things that we all share, so things like water, sewer, roads. And so how do we, since those cross-jurisdictional boundaries, how do we collaborate with our municipalities on those sorts of services? Fire and emergency management and law enforcement. The document then goes into analysis and policy alternatives and talks about what are some other partners that the county works with, so things like BRAG, the CMPO, and COG. And then recommendations and implementation strategies. So 3 umbrella goals for the regional collaboration plan that are defined here. And moving forward with these, and specifically recommendations. So for example, under land use planning, one of the recommendation is providing model ordinances for cities and towns, formalized planning groups, working on annexation policies areas. And so really, once again, gives direction on some of these collaborative items with the municipalities and the county. And so the way that this is laid out with the recommendations, like I said, I think it's going to be extremely valuable for having some of those conversations with our municipalities and kind of being, I think, a leader, the county kind of showing some leadership and guiding some of this direction with growth within the county. Then goes down to water, sewer, roadways, fire and emergency management services, and law enforcement as well. And so that's kind of the bulk of the regional collaboration plan. Once again, it's just meant to be a supportive document of the general plan. And once again, just emphasizes how does the county collaborate with our municipalities. So happy to answer any questions there, but also want to give some time to Tim as well, but no questions there? Awesome. Perfect.
Thank you, Lauren.
Great, thanks. And Tim's just going to go, once again, the urban and rural area assessment cost of services will be going to the Planning Commission on September 1st, but Tim wants to give you all a chance to have any questions answered about that document.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lauren. All right, this is where I implement my training provided previously.
Come down here, type the word.
And you'll notice too, you guys don't have copies of these yet, and that is purposeful.
Oh, that's a
in
quick
that they're
shortcut
still
to it.
Okay, thank you.
Scroll a little bit and say, how do you instead of extend, you can just see duplicate top one.
Then I can read it without my glasses. Okay, thank you.
Said, bring this room.
All right, good to visit with you, and I'd just like to share the status of this. I'll call it an advanced draft of the Cache County-wide Urban and Rural Area Assessment, which is subtitled A Cost of Services Analysis of Alternative Development Patterns. And this is intended to be a resource to support regional collaboration. We've recognized through this planning process that we're not, in our general plan, not dictating how cities should grow, but acknowledging that a conversation about how they grow could be explored together, and even in a partnership approach to define urban areas, rural areas. And this is in context of an anticipated growth for 2040 of an increase of 48,000 residents, 22,000 households, and over 23,000 employees.
Tim, where do we pull those growth projections from? Again, I'm sorry, I was looking at that.
Oh, sure. Primarily from Kim C. Gardner Institute and then also Utah Department of Workforce Services.
Is Kim C. Gardner the one that's saying that it's 85% is gonna be internal population growth?
That's correct. And I do have that question came up in the Planning Commission. And so this is the source of that. And
Can we look at the actual Kim C. Gardner projections? Because that's one of the things I think we keep talking about, and it's a complete projection that is diametrically opposed to what we're seeing today.
okay. And
External growth far outpaces, or not far, but outpaces internal growth. In fact, the governor recently talked about that the state of Utah is seeing much more outside population growth than internal population growth. So that Kim C. Gardner, if we're gonna rely on that, I'd love to talk much more about that, because you're seeing today external population influx outpacing internal growth, and those things 180 degrees turn going forward, and I'd like to see why that's the case.
Sure.
So we don't continue to say 85% of the new growth is gonna come from internal population growth, because that is not what we're seeing today, and I'd love to see why that's about to change.
sure. I appreciate the question. A similar question came up in the Planning Commission and started to look into the source. And I think the key term and application of the source in whatever references, planning references, would be the natural increase. And so this is some of the language from the report, the 2020 to 2060 projections. And so I think more analysis of this can be done. And
I think if we're ever gonna show that 85% number, I'd love to show the graph that Kim C. Gardner's produced.
Yep.
Because, like I said, it's 180 degrees different from what we've experienced over the last 5 or 7 years. I mean, it literally reverses course.
Okay.
So that 85% number, if we're gonna continue to talk about it, we need to show where that's coming from, because it's not real. It's a made-up number.
We'll dig into it. This is what I've been able to gather from Kim C. Gardner to present. And
And I'm not
Okay.
saying that you're doing it. I'm just
Okay.
saying, if we're gonna continue to use that number, I want to show the graph that Kim C. Gardner produces next to that number every time.
okay.
So that people can say, that's not what we're seeing. Why is that the case? You know, who am I gonna believe? My lying eyes or the Kim C. Gardner
Okay.
projection?
Tim, can I ask a question along those lines?
Sure.
In looking at numbers of how we've grown, did you look at any historical numbers? Did Kim C. Gardner have any? Because I'm amazed that we are only gonna grow by that much. I think we'll grow by more. When I moved here, and in about 92, we had a population of 80,000. I remember that because Cache County was the same population as my hometown of West Valley. And now you guys had what, over 137,000? We've grown by more than, 50,000 in the last 30 years. And so I'm just wondering kind of how you guys came up with those numbers and if you looked at any historical data.
Sure. And what might be helpful is to expand the growth historically to present. And these are just annual projections from Kim C. Gardner for the entire county. What was challenging in this assessment was to divide those up by community and then project which community might grow faster than another. That's where it became very challenging. And but I think it does set up for meaningful discussion with the communities to say, here's what's projected countywide, which city and which town might anticipate absorbing how much growth. So,
Kim C. Gardner does have some historical projections, Gina, where they show, here's where we got it wrong.
Oh,
Here's
really?
where we got it right. Here's where we've been off. So it's much more nuanced. And that's, I think, where we need to spend some time, rather than just take an off-the-shelf number. Because, say, Washington County, for example, they missed, and not just by a little bit. I think if we look at population trends, what's actually going on in reality, because I've gone through those in great detail, and I've reached out to some folks at Kempsey Gardner to talk to them, because that 85% number, it would be interesting to talk about that rather than to continue to parrot it.
Well, it's significant because it does affect the way we plan and how we look at things, so.
Right, because if we
Okay.
keep saying it's gonna be internal, and you get that pipeline from California, you keep coming in, we're gonna make strategic errors that we'll have to live with for generations.
Okay, so I'm hearing two comments, and one is just the historic growth in context of the future projection, which I think could be, I think that'd be a nice addition and provide context. And then just further understanding of what the 85% natural increase means. And I think that's something I'm looking into further.
Yeah, and
could
that's
provide
that's nothing more than I would love for you to, every time you say 85%, show the graph that Kempsey Gardner has, because you can go to their website, you can pull it up by county, and you can see that, you know, the natural increase has been decreasing through 2022. And the outside, I can't remember the exact term right now, but the outside influx has been increasing, and it just all of a sudden reverses going forward.
Okay,
Why? Right? I mean, past projections aren't necessarily right for the future, but why do we do a 180 on both of those going forward? It doesn't make sense.
okay.
Because no industrialized nation has ever reversed their birth rate, by the way. So,
Be mindful of those comments, thank you.
Kempsey Gardner.
the University of Utah.
The what?
The University of Utah Economics Department.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some of those projections used to take place in Governor's Office of Planning and Budget, and I think it's primarily focused more in this Kempsey Gardner Institute in partnership with the state. This is a USDA map showing it's a land use resource assessment map. And this image and text just describes the urban-rural area assessment as the area where growth and water supporting that growth, and the existing communities and infrastructure lie. And much of this report focuses on 3 scenarios. And we're in the process of developing those scenarios graphically as well as numerically. And the intent is to understand land use pattern affecting fiscal and economic impacts, as well as the infrastructure costs, the initial costs, as well as the implied future maintenance costs. And this is just broken down to a smaller scale, showing a similar density, slight density increase as you move left to right, but just the land use pattern and development pattern is different, but the density is similar. So larger lot on the left, more of a clustered configuration middle, and then transferred or clustered on the right. And you take these development patterns and start to multiply them, and you get kind of this effect of choice, right? That cities and the county could work together to achieve one pattern or the other, or a variation, any variation of these. But there are fiscal and economic differences in terms of the infrastructure per unit or per capita, the water use, certainly. And so this is not just unincorporated, but it also looks at choice options and growth options for the municipalities. In the county, these would be the type of more expansive growth patterns that might depict a 2 to 10 acre development or 1 to 5 acres. Clustered might look more like this pattern of smaller lots, clustered units with surrounding country. And then we do see communities in our own region and throughout the United States that are rural, but when you look at the town and the surrounding area, it's that lower density. And so the definition of rural is may vary between communities, right, in terms of how they intend to grow. And so we're working on illustrations that would show a more expansive scenario compared to the current land use, not yet showing a clustered and a transferred scenario, but what you're seeing here is the calculation of the future population based on different assumptions about a more expansive growth pattern. This assumes more of a county rezone trend towards 2 to 5 acre. Not to say that's the direction we're headed, but if that's the direction the county did head, and communities, cities with the sewer and water systems kind of put forth the quarter, third acre lot development, this is more of what you get with a smaller percentage of townhome and multifamily. Clustered scenario starts to explore more land preservation by bringing those development units into closer proximity, smaller lots. Not necessarily higher density, but well, somewhat higher density. And you do see an increase of townhome and multifamily units, as well as the percentage of the total area. And then a more transferred scenario. And this could be exploring receiving zones and communities saying, we'd like to work with the county to preserve surrounding green belts and preserve floodplains and keep agriculture alive and well, but have a good strategic area for growth and meet the market demand for the different housing types that are in need.
Can I?
Yes.
Can I ask you a couple questions? Can you go back 1 or 2 slides? One more. That one. And I want to ask this to you and Gordon, you specifically. So this is what you see in what we've traditionally done, and you see a lot of this in Europe, where people live in town and then they go out to their fields during the day to work. And that's been our historical agriculture. But over the last 30 years, pretty easy, it's gone much more from a lot of individual farm owners to much more corporate farming. How does that switch in how the economics of farming and general just structure, where it used to be a whole bunch of family farms, and now those family farms are really reducing, it's becoming a corporate farm. How does this tie into that? I mean, what do you see, Gordon? Because I think you mentioned the other day when we were talking about a rezone, right, is that the farmer owns the land, and then he decides to retire, has a couple kids. None of them are going to go into farming, so you divide your land up to your kids, and each one of them gets so many acres, or you just sell it off and they get the money. Is this still a viable way to do things?
What you're seeing in America is, when you're seeing corporate farms, that's exactly what's happening. The reason being is small farmers cannot purchase the equipment, they can't purchase the land, they can't do all that because they haven't got enough capital to make a return on investment.
Mm-hmm.
And so what you're seeing is all these parcels of land, and I don't think you can even hardly even point your finger at Cache County in the south end of the valley. You could maybe do a little bit more in the north end of the valley because the pieces of property are much, much larger. But you get down in the south end of the valley, and most of the properties are, 10 to 40 acres. And part of that is because when the pioneers originally came to Cache Valley, they were only given 40 acres many a times by Brigham Young and the church leaders. Well, after 4 generations, just like I said, it took a period of time before they were able to grow. Some of them have grown and has got some larger tracts of land. But to answer your question, you won't see anything looking like that in the south end of the valley. What you'll see is all that open space will be filled in with housing.
And I think that's where my concern, as I've thought about this, is even if you're a farmer and you have that 40 acres, none of your kids are going to farm it. So now you're going to have to sell it, but you can't sell it to another farmer because there's really not anybody in farming that's going to buy that 40-acre tract. Those bigger corporate farms are wanting sizable acreage, right? It's not efficient for them to buy a 40-acre tract here and a 40-acre tract there. I mean, it's just the pressure to put that into development is so huge, I think, at this point, that there's no I mean, there's no fighting that off, right?
Well, the thing that you gotta realize is that the reason why this is going into development is the farmer cannot even come close to offering the amount of money for an acre of land that they can receive from a developer. I mean, it isn't even in the same ballpark. You still only you can still only offer and farm it out of it somewhere around $2,000 an acre. And lots are going for, 5 times that amount of money. And so there is no way that a farm can sustain because you can't compete. So the last crop that's grown on a farm is houses.
How much do we get an acre? I mean, legitimately, is it fairly, and I know this varies depending on where we're buying it in the valley, but $25,000 an acre, is that?
In the south end of the valley, now, maybe I'm gonna let something out of the bag I shouldn't, but they appraised my property to put the road through at $100,000 an acre.
So 25's pretty
That is-
reasonable.
That is, you cannot find any land in the south end of the valley for much less than $100,000. The reason being is you can subdivide it and, you can subdivide it and sell it in lots. Lots now are selling for $100,000 or something in the south end of the valley. And so you can buy the land, a developer can buy the land, he can put in the infrastructure for a subdivision, and he can still turn a profit. For me to buy that land and increase my farm is not even, you can't even begin to put a pencil to it. It doesn't even exist. And that all went away about 20 years ago. Now, in the north end of the valley, you're still seeing people increasing their farm acreage because you don't have the development potential in the north end. You go into southern Idaho and it's even less, but even those areas, the land and property values are starting to go up.
Okay, Tim, how much more do you have? We were.
Oh, I
going to
think,
be done.
I think we can be done.
Sorry to have,
Oh,
taken a left turn for you, but
if
I
I
mean, this
just
is one of the.
make a short response to that, I think the starting premise of these mini scenarios, as I'll call them, is that the acreage is worth a substantial amount initially. And then it's just how the land is developed such that you have development value sold, say, in this middle image, but then if a conservation easement is placed on the open space area, then it's reduced in value such that someone wishing to continue agriculture at whatever scale, and we're aware of some owners that would like to buy, they just can't find it at the right price. But if development accommodates both the profitable side as well as then the conservation price side, then maybe there's a good balance to be
The
found.
thing with the conservation easement is suddenly you've taken all the development rights away from the land. That goes with the person that did the easement. Perfect example is Zollinger Fruit Farm up there in, what is that area? Is that?
River
River
Heights.
Heights?
Providence River Heights. You get talking with the Zollingers, they put all that land, that fruit farm in a conservation easement because it was time to pay off all the brothers and sisters. So they put it in a conservation easement, took the development rights, and satisfied all the siblings. Now, you're in a situation where the Zollinger that was the mastermind behind it is ready to retire, and he's having a hard time getting one of his kids to take over that fruit farm because it's a lot of work and there's not a lot of return on it. And yet they can't sell it. The only thing they can do is maybe find somebody that will buy the trees because that's what it's worth. And so they're a little concerned about it.
So, but Tim, help us out here.
Yeah.
You can, it's in a conservation easement and it's supposed to be in perpetuity, allegedly. But that stuff can come out of conservation easements, correct?
In different ways. It depends on how it's set up, and it could even be a future receiving zone to transfer density elsewhere into. So there's a lot of ways to explore a balance between development and preservation.
I mean, I
Very
think,
difficult. Now, the one thing that does happen with these conservation easements is there is a possibility that one farmer that's right to the side of them would have a desire to continue to farm, and that land can only sell what its agricultural use is, and he might come in and buy that for farm prices, and, continue.
Right.
That's the only thing I can see as the benefit of it.
So the location's key, isn't it?
It continues in an open space.
Yep.
Tim, thank you.
Okay, we'll keep studying and prepare this for planning commission and then council. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. We're gonna, oh, go ahead.
There's one more thing. I just want to extend, first off, thank you. And I just want to extend, if you have any questions, want to meet one-on-one, anything, we are here and open to meeting and answering all questions. So
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation. Okay, very good. All right, we are ready for the salsa showdown. So I'll go let those people, okay, thank you. Thank you, Bryson.
So now, do we have to vote on a salsa that we like, or what? I was
Not sure. They'll tell us what to do.
For some reason, I didn't do it last year. I must,
Oh, you weren't here last year?
Were you fishing?
I wonder if maybe I was fishing or something.
Yeah.
I don't remember. Remember you guys always talking about it, but
Yeah.
you was giving Nolan a lot of bad raps. He didn't show up. He didn't.
No, he didn't. I gave him a bad time about that.
Year number 2 he's been.
You know, this year he didn't even show up.
Hello there. Oh. Ooh, look at that package. Well,
Cheese sticks, string cheese.
ah,
She's good idea.
I like it. I like it.
Thank you.
You notice
thank you.
your uncle didn't even show up for this.
I know, I even brought him Primus set.
I don't know where he's at or if he'll show up.
He had a board meeting, he claims. Yeah, yeah,
Claims.
yeah, he
That's
claims.
the important word there.
I was giving Councilman Erickson about the same story that I gave you in the county office, and he said, somebody bring cheese, because we gotta have something to go with this whiner. He wasn't giving me the time of day.
Did you go talk to Hoffman AI? Razz him? Thanks. Cut some of the heat?
Is this really nephew? I can see the resemblance, really.
So I spent the last week in Concord, New Hampshire.
Yeah, yeah. What's that?
Quite something.
What's that?
It's a cool little town. It's not even.
Wow.
The biggest town. They have the oldest
He's not here.
state capitol that the legislature's been meeting in continuously.
Thanks for getting chips that are gluten-free.
1860.
Because I can't have gluten, so I appreciate it.
I don't want to
Thank
move
you.
to Concord, New Hampshire, but it was a cool place to
Nice.
place to be.
You like New Hampshire?
I said I don't want to move there, but it was a cool place to be. So I was in Concord. You go to all of the old.
Thank you.
Is Nolan gonna be here at all today?
Yes, he's coming at 5, Gordy.
Where they did all
Yeah.
the G. So just it's amazing buildings that they built back then. And then they moved all those mill towns down to the south. After that, they kind of chase economics. And when I first met Beth, I was getting a degree in economics. I was studying.
So is the pan to stir the salsa? Is that what the pan is
The first two unions in the South, and it was in Roanoke Grounds.
Really?
And so I meet this girl from North Carolina. I'm like, this is going to be fantastic. I'm going to get to learn all about this. She knew. She's like, I don't even know what you're talking about.
So now, Paul, have you started your summer school?
Last week. Good. Last week I was there all week. It was 8 to 6 every day. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
Oh my gosh.
That'll be a,
Isn't your brain tired?
that'll shock your.
Believe
You should
me,
stay.
Can I get
I am
two
an
of them?
old dog, and that is a new
Thank you.
and it is.
I had a boss in high school.
Get away with that.
He was from New Hampshire, him and his wife. They were so fun. They moved from New Hampshire in 1973 and started a business.
Numbered, Gordy.
Called it Grinders. They wanted
Oh, I
move
see
here
the
to go
number on
skiing.
the
I don't
side.
think they skied a lot. They were busy with their.
Now, you guys are gonna give us instruction?
Always.
Okay.
They were great people and they were really ski with Oz.
I guess that's to help dissipate some of it, yeah.
What are you, retarded?
Clean the palate.
It sounded so funny coming from him.
That's right. This is Kim Schweimer from New Hampshire.
That's exactly how he talked. It was so
Oh,
funny.
you're gonna give us instruction, I don't have to
His
guess.
name was Sumo.
I hope it's better than your,
And it's
Your,
kind of
uh,
an old town, so I'd walk from the hotel.
your auction.
Kind of an Uber.
That's not us,
And I
that's
would
the
walk
livestock
from the
road.
hotel to the school.
I was
You need
basing,
to-
I was basing my whole opinion on your office, and it didn't fare very well.
What kind of a
Especially
place?
during
They
budget
started
season,
it, the first classes were held in a cow barn back in the 70s.
Can you just play the video?
But it's like the biggest IP, one of the top 10 IP schools.
So everybody gonna get a plate of this?
Yep, everyone's getting a lunch
Walk
late.
through, and it's those old school neighborhoods that are walkable, and you walk by Suds Laundry, and you got Everglades.
Lauren, you can come up here and take his place, so you got a table.
Bart, are you gonna be involved in this?
Come on.
Spectator only?
Come on, Bart.
Tried to invite him, he wouldn't come.
Let me just tell you that.
I think you should.
Somebody can sit here in Nolan's seat because he's not gonna show up. Bart, come and take this seat right here.
We don't have the fruity salsa this year?
Because Nolan ain't gonna be here until council meeting.
Compete against Jamie.
Lauren, you take this one. You have to be part of it.
You should do it. Thank you very much.
Lauren's gonna fill my spot.
Lauren's gonna take,
Wow, this is a different view on
Yeah.
this side. Don't know if I like it.
you feel like an eagle and you're looking down at the people.
Wait till it starts, for real.
Oh, see, maybe
on,
it
Bart.
is then.
Come on, Bart, you're part of us. Bart,
Telling him.
No?
we want Bart.
I got Fridays.
Oh.
Oh, oh, thank you. Whoa.
Randy, come on in.
Jen has really stepped up this year with the serving gloves.
Okay. So let's determine together.
Five is best.
Five is best, one is no good.
Okay.
Okay, so before we get started, I'd just like to thank Jenna for putting this all together and making sure that you don't get botulism as you eat it. She does a lot of our food safety in the office, and we've been inundated with people canning beans and corn this week.
So she got lots of ice on this before she brought it.
Yes, been in the fridge, washed the hands.
Reminds me to tell you my botulism joke, but I have to do that not in a public setting.
So each salsa is turned in by county employees. We won't tell you which one, but Randy has one. So just as last year, you'll judge them on all the different criteria: color, aroma, texture, flavor, and heat. I brought some Prilosec for Nolan as a joke, but if anyone needs it.
No, he wouldn't even show up.
We also have string cheese to cut the heat in between. But I've also asked Janine to play, we asked our USU marketing people, this is Rachel, she runs our social media in our office part-time, and we coerced campus to come and help do a video for the 4-H livestock show. And so we put that together and asked Janine to play that as you guys try this out. But with that, I'll turn it over to you. Oh,
Do we have the salsa numbers? Yeah.
It's under
they're under
the.
Oh,
They're
yeah.
on your
Gotcha.
thing. Yeah.
I'm a rookie.
yeah, so as Janine hits play, I just wanted to give you some highlights. There was over $800,000 in sales. On top of that was $100,000 of boosts, where people could just boost children without doing the animals.
There'd been about twice in that in boost if they would've let you boost more than $50.
Gordy needs to be on the livestock committee.
How was that compared to last year?
It's up.
It's up, and last year was up significantly.
Last
Year
year was a
before.
record and this year he's up.
Nice.
Wait, 5 is good, 1 is bad. Okay.
Do it opposite.
No, I haven't filled anything out yet, so.
I can't stop eating number 1.
Oh, I haven't got. I got roped into this.
Oh, you did?
We have grace or orange.
I like how you said roped.
I know, yeah. Fitting with the theme.
So it's your 4th place, this is really kind of.
There were a lot of goats this year.
You gotta watch this, I got a granddaughter that's gonna show up in there.
Jenny, do you want to take some of the competition?
Not exactly sure how you show a pig, but.
One is really good.
It was the best thing I've ever.
Or you yell when you're
It's got like a little bit of sweetness to it almost.
And we're also grading on heat, correct?
Yeah. That's obviously very subjective.
Yeah.
Okay, here comes my granddaughter,
Okay.
When you finish the card, I can take it.
right there. Maya Madsen. Yeah, she takes after her grandmother and her mother. All right, we better get doing this, right?
So far, so good. I cannot stop eating.
Oh, yeah. I like that one. Oh, yeah. Who put the video together?
Rachel did, okay.
Oh, me and my husband. I can take all credit.
I'm from, yeah. Appreciate it. Huh? About 30.
I know, I don't like voting. It's too hard to choose.
You got a favorite, Lauren?
Okay, as you're getting your cards done, we can come and collect those, but no pressure.
I'm really enjoying number 2 right now.
Are we counting?
I don't know, they're all so different, it's hard to choose.
As a point, no? 'Cause-
Well, that's 2.
okay, then, yeah.
Which one did you turn? 4?
Yeah.
Oh, that one's a little more. Yeah, so.
You okay?
That one. I'll be okay. Do you have any ones that you didn't?
Thanks for the video, that was good. It's,
Do you have any?
always fun to look at them. And
Oh, yeah.
besides going to the Posse Burger,
Yes, I'd love some.
I always have to have a Navajo taco when we're there. I always have to have a Navajo taco when I'm there.
More chips?
love the judging cards. They are so
They're
cute.
great.
I know which one you're talking about. That is actually, that's a good idea.
Any others that were completed?
I have one more for you. Thanks for doing this. Makes me feel like I earned my money.
Save some for Nolan.
Which is the hot one?
Paper number 3.
The green one?
Yeah, tell them green means smile. Don't tell them I said that.
Got my card.
I do think it's interesting how we always have meetings on this.
Belly cozy mock.
People's food. They're all good. I got all mine turned in, yeah.
Still working. Do you have any completed?
I'm still working
All right,
on these.
that is okay. All right. I did my job. I'm getting out of the hot seat.
Wowzers. That is toasty.
That hot? Which one did you have that was hot?
Three has a little bit of.
Spicy meatball. Wow.
Wait a minute. It's all making sense now.
Was this whose?
Yeah, I do.
We got all of yours. So we got all of yours.
Anybody need more chips?
I've eaten more string cheese now than I have since third grade.
The meeting snack of choice?
Tell you what.
Anybody else?
I'll have a few more, please.
Thank you.
Nice colors, Gordon.
I may have finished joking, but I have.
It's gotta be hotter than that to make mine over. I'm good, thanks. Thanks.
Anyone else need an afternoon?
Hello? Okay, I'm sorry. Can you repeat that?
I was in
Oh,
elementary, even though
fantastic. Are you on the,
square pieces,
Was that here?
square rectangles.
yes, up the stairs, are you on the
But they were
street
square
side
pieces
or
and
in the
they
back?
had,
Okay, great.
I finally found
You're right there.
a food vendor that does it. So I'm gonna order these square.
Come in.
I don't know if they were good or
Still.
not.
I think I'm done.
They were fantastic.
I brought memories.
So the fact that they'll show up. But it's
I
not
lost
like, I
one.
remember the bean burritos being just bad. And if I'm in high school and I'm thinking food is poor quality.
We might have
Oh, I did.
Whoever made these are all delicious. Thank you. Thank you for your contribution.
Jenna, do you want to reveal whose they were?
Yes, we're just adding that to the last part. Oh,
So what you're saying is just be quiet for a minute?
no.
Yep, that's Nolan's.
First grade, sixth grade, because they still have, still a corporal punishment. But my fifth grade pattern came from that, I remember Miss Eve, and she was so friendly. Just put together. We were at lunch, and the school made these brownies, and they were, really, really moldable, a bunch of stuff. Well, anyways, I made the brownies look like number two. I was pretty proud of myself, right? I'm like, that is realistic. But anyways, Missy is doing her, walking through the aisles, making sure everybody, she ate her hamburger with a fork. That's what this lady does. So she's coming down the aisle, and I see her coming. So I eat the evidence. Right? Well, it was a brownie. It was always a brownie. Everybody at the table knew it was a brownie.
All
Well,
right.
anyways, some of the girls
We've
started
got the
breaking.
winner, we've added them up, and we are ready. So I'll announce fourth, third, second, and first. And then I'll say who's.
to win.
No, they don't, but I think that, well.
Just checking.
So number 2 came in fourth, and that was Sarah Price. I don't think she's here.
She's not.
Okay, but, so she had a total of 110 points. And then number 3, or in third place, we have, Randy came in third place with 120 points.
And that was, number 3 was number 3?
Yes, but he also got most spicy. You had.
Yes, he did.
So that leaves Bryson Salsa and Bart Salsa. So Bryson Salsa was, on your plate, it was the first one that you tried, or number 1. And then Bart Salsa was salsa number 4 on your plate, so the 2 red ones. And it was very close. Second place with 128 was, I'll make sure that I have it right, Bryson. 128.
And then Bart, you have to come up and have executive, so give the presentation of the gift. Barbara. And then we also have a copy of.
Is that why you couldn't participate, as you were one of the...
I didn't want to vote for my own stuff, and then
Yeah, that makes sense then. I thought you would just be in a...
Here's a copy of your competitors as well.
Good stuff, too. Thank you. Is Jenna's from the Valley, or is she?
Oh, she's from North Carolina.
Thank you. North Carolina. Jenna, you gotta come up and talk to me.
I'll take that.
From North Carolina. Where? Raleigh? Where? What Raleigh area? You can probably tell me and I will know. Yes.
Bryson, we want competitors' recipes.
My wife. She grew up in North Rapids, so Commerce, but it's Aberdeen. We lived right when we were first married in a wonderful town known as Lumberton, which go look up Lumberton, because the way I like to describe it, if St. Louis was a town, it would be Lumberton. Yeah, it's just as you come up 95 and you kind of punch in, you pass south of the border. You're in Apex, and now you're in Logan. What was the
All right, JD and all of the USU Extension people, thank you so much. We appreciate you doing this. This is the second year. I hope it's a continued tradition. Okay, very good. Thank you so much. Thank you for it all. And thank you to everyone who submitted. That was awesome. Thank you.